session. Okay, we're on the record. It's October 8th, 2015. This is a bargaining session, Pasco County, International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Local 79. I'm Jim Sheriff.
Barbara Histon?
Kevin Fulford.
Representing Teamsters is myself, John Schultes, and Pam White.
Oh, Pam White, Libraries.
Mike Coburn, plant mechanic.
Tom Longman, Fleet. Jim Boucher, Public Transportation.
Doug Heck, Utilities.
Ed Cizik, Utilities.
John, we've tried to give Barbara a good overview of where the impasse issues are. And I thought it'd be a good idea if we could go through and she can hear directly from you rather than through us what the union's positions are on the articles that have not been agreed to.
On the plan. Want to start from the document that's provided on 9/16.
Sure.
Most of the TAs on there. The one from the county dated 9/16 was kind of the entire contract and signed off on numerous articles.
Okay, yeah, I have the list of the ones that I think are still open. So if we could just go article by article and, you know, we can maybe see if we can resolve them, or we can, at least I can understand what the issues are, and then we'll give, we can see which side is sort of pulled out.
Which side's being reasonable?
There you go, that's it, there you go, I was gonna say it. All right, so the first one is, am I correct, it's Article 3, just cause this one, is that?
Yeah, the first one, so we're not gonna bother rehashing ones or TA, right? You already know.
Right, and their
Yeah.
TA, quite frankly, so I will have one that I just wanna mention, and that's on workers' comp, and I'll just float something by you, and you guys, you know, we'll talk about that, perhaps it'll be a, you know, something on another article, because I might be able to tie it to something that you guys want, I might want something. That's the other one.
So the first article in numerical order that's still open is Article 3, just cause discipline.
Okay.
And what the union is seeking is to have a sunsetting of discipline where it doesn't just stay on the employee's record for an hour.
Okay,
And we also have some procedural language proposed that just kind of, I guess, calls a protest letter, a letter of protest for when someone receives discipline. We're not going to process a protest of a reprimand as a grievance per se. It's going to go down as an appeal letter, and we call that a letter of protest. So we did have a proposal on some of that. It's kind of semantics as far as what we call it. We're going to call it a letter of protest,
okay,
regardless whether it's a
okay.
Our response to that was to add the clause in that section that no specific form is required, meaning you can use whatever you want and call it whatever you want. You may change your mind, you might want to call it something else 6 months from now. But if you want to style them letters of protest and submit them, they'll be processed as the written response.
The only I think benefit in that is if we're all speaking the same language, and when we say a letter of protest versus a letter of concern, that's Local 79 terminology, and it's universal. We have obviously numerous employers we deal with, so we're trying to standardize what we call something. So if there's a question over when an employee says, I got this reprimand, I disagree with it, what do I do? We'll go see the union. Well, I'm not a union member. Well, you can file a letter of protest if you want. Just so everyone's speaking the same language. It's just a proposal. Again, we're going to call it that regardless.
Right, I was just gonna say, it doesn't really matter what we call it, or even in the contract, if you want to refer to it as a letter of protest internally.
Sure.
Is the language that, I think this is new language that wasn't in the last session, am I correct, Jim? Is that the
No,
10?
I think you're probably looking at the version that has a little 10 at the bottom in the narrow part. It has the clause, no specific form is required.
So
Yeah.
in F, it allows you to submit something within 10 days of a written reprimand. Is that adequate? Does that address your concern?
Well, it kind of coincides with the grievance procedure. So yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And the next issue was the sunsetting of discipline. We spoke a little bit before the meeting, and I think the language that we have, do they have that about 5 years?
No.
Okay, So I would be comfortable with saying that written reprimands that are older than 5 years will have no weight in considering progressive discipline. They'll still be there for proof that the employee was notified, but in terms of if we had a progressive discipline that said 1, 2, 3, you're out, if it was a written over 5, I'm not comfortable taking suspensions or a termination that resulted in arbitration back or anything like that, but certainly written reprimands I would be comfortable with.
Our proposal our latest proposal is 2 and 4. 2 for written reprimands and 4 for things exceeding written reprimands, such as a suspension. So what I'm hearing, if I'm correct, is you just want 5 years for reprimands, indefinite for suspensions.
Yeah,
So we're part of that.
or a little bit, okay.
Okay, the other proposal under B was to have kind of a fork in the road when somebody wants to, they'll have an opportunity to use the personnel board to protest discipline, or they can go just the grievance route. Obviously, the grievance route's only going to be by Local 79 afforded to dues-paying members, not to say that an employee who's not a member of Local 79 could invoke the grievance procedure at their own expense. But rather than going through the personnel board, if they don't want to, they can opt to take the grievance route. Kind of like civil service, I don't know if you
Yeah,
gotta make a decision. All right.
Yeah, and obviously, as you know, civil service is more like a personnel board, I mean, in terms of how it works, and,
And my experiences with civil service is that fork in the road is there. As any member, you make a decision. When you're protesting that discipline, you got a choice to make. You're either going to go through the grievance procedure through the union contract or go through civil service, but you can't do both. You can't have 2 bites of the apple.
yeah.
And so that's kind of the way we want to.
I think our position would be just the personnel board, but, we'll talk about that. I
Sure.
think that, okay.
So those are the three points under. I think I said 2 initially. It's actually 3.
Okay.
They fall in D, F, and
Okay. Did you give us a proposal on the alternative to the personnel board, or is that kind
yeah,
of?
September 16th.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
Yeah, in fact,
Sorry.
if you
Yeah, that's
haven't
fine.
actually
Yeah,
worked
yes,
this,
yes,
I'm
yes.
going to be working on that as well.
Okay, do you have a copy? Yeah.
I do.
Okay, great. Okay,
Before we proceed, do we want to mention Randy's present now?
Randy Tavis, Assistant County Administrator.
You got your ticket?
My ticket.
You got to punch your ticket. Can't be here
All
without a
right,
ticket.
so,
oh, okay, good. So now you're 2 and 4, got it on the, okay, good, and got it. Okay, very good, I understand.
according to my records, the next one after that, in the miracle order, was Article 5, drug-free workplace.
Okay,
It's still open.
okay, all right. I think that, obviously by statute, there's mandatory test positions. We're requesting, do you want to help me out here, just random. drug
It's just a
testing,
reference to
that-
that provision of the statute, and includes the definition of mandatory test positions. So there's no dispute, not, of course, not every employee in the county can be tested, it's limited by statute who can be tested. This is the definition of who can be randomly tested.
The union's proposal is just to leave the language as it is, status quo. If there's a statute defining anything, that's fine. The statute's not going to be affected by our little contract, so we just propose to leave the language alone. There's been previous versions of the county proposals to this, and so we just basically think the language is fine the way it is, just leave it alone and keep the status quo.
That same statute has a provision that says that the issue regarding random testing is a mandatory subject to bargaining.
And we are bargaining, and our counter proposal in bargaining is to reject the proposal and leave it as it is.
Okay.
We're not refusing to bargain
Oh,
on it.
no, absolutely. So just so I'm clear, and everybody is clear about where the hang-up is, FDOT required drug testing, obviously that's random, and that's for anybody with a CDL Class A, B, right? And then, so what we would be talking about is other safety-sensitive positions defined in the statute as mandatory. And I couldn't even sit here and tell you what those are right now. I'm guessing maybe wastewater, I mean, I don't know, I have no idea. Carrying a firearm, but I don't think that pertains to anyone in your bargaining unit, so. So that's kind of where we're at, is that you're wanting not to have those people tested randomly, obviously. I understand we obviously have post-accident drug testing is already in here, reasonable suspicion testing is already on, is part of it. So the only, where we're apart is those covered by the statute, not covered by FDOT, so that I'm clear.
We just don't, I mean, you just kind of hit the nail on the head. You already have the language in there to do what you need to do. There's no need to improve it, revise it, adjust it, change it, incorporate statutes into it. It's already there, it's working.
Okay.
Let me test that just a little bit. So let's just take this category of, from the statute for mandatory that says, well, work with children. That could be a librarian, agreed, right?
I don't know, I guess, I would imagine.
All right, so
Are
if
they working with children, or are they,
assume for the sake of argument, they conduct the reading circle with the kids, 3 days a week, okay? They work with children. Give me that as a starting point. So your position is that because of the language in A that says we could random drug test, if you add that to the statute, but you don't want in the contract, that would include employees that work with children, the librarian. Tomorrow, we could do a random drug test of a librarian. You're not gonna have an issue with that?
I'm not saying that. You got to meet the criteria of having a random drug testing program in place. And then if that's the direction that you want to go, is to start randomly drug testing people you've never.
They're also
drug
not
tested.
in the bargaining unit, so in that sense, in that,
I'm using an example.
Okay,
Okay?
okay,
And, let's-
and anyone who is.
Fine, we'll skip working with children, people that work with heavy or dangerous equipment.
I say we do everybody.
Okay. Well, the statute says we can't do everybody, and
Oh,
federal
county.
case law says we can't do everybody.
No, I don't think that's fair.
Okay, well, take it up with the state legislature.
Okay, thank you.
But, that's the law right now. We can't test everybody. So we had language that you rejected earlier that set out the procedure for random drug testing, because you said back then we don't need it because we have random drug testing already in the contract.
Correct.
So what procedure are you referring to that would have to be negotiated?
I
into the
don't know.
contract?
I don't know what random drug testing program you have in place now. I don't. All I know is you have the ability under the contract to random drug test somebody. And just so you know, I don't have a dog in a fight with trying to defend somebody who's stone high, drunk or whatever coming to work. That's not my.
Well, that's reasonable suspicion category, but.
Right. My whole, I guess, the basis of our proposal of leaving alone is that what's broke? Why fix it? What needs to be changed? Nothing needs to be changed, in my opinion. And unless something does, unless you want to start testing people you haven't ordinarily tested before, which I suspect might be the motivation to change the language. That's what we all suspect. But you have language in there now, and I'm not committing to anything as far as who you can test, who you can't test. I guess the state statute drives that.
Okay, fair enough, no, that's good, I just wanna
It's
understand.
not broke, don't fix it, kind of,
All right, so, 7, is that the next one, 7?
Yeah.
Okay. And my understanding is you're just wanting last amended November 2014 added to that?
Yeah, we probably need to take a closer look at that, because it may be okay with us. I know, I think, Kevin, you did provide us with all of the revisions in November 14, I think you did, right? I need to kind of dig through my emails, and I didn't want to agree to it at the time because I didn't know exactly what happened between 13 and 14.
Right,
So,
okay.
everything that I saw thus far, I think they're just name change references to personnel director to HR director.
Yeah.
I think, and if that's all it is, then, we wouldn't have a problem with it, but it's probably falls in my court, which
Okay. Appointed union stewards shall be allowed attachment, is that a change also to by 3 inches?
I agree with that.
We agree, okay, very good.
That's their request.
Okay.
No, Doug says he wants it 5 inches by 4 inches now.
Maybe 10 by 10, it'll be.
I got I advertise it on Sundays, you'll see me flying over the stadium, it says Goodyear on my back.
There you go, exactly. All right, cool, so, and that's it on that article, right?
The next one's 10.
Okay.
You can use deductions, our proposal is to just strike the language. We don't pay anybody else anywhere for the administration of union dues. So our proposal is to just delete the language.
Yeah, the $200. I will say it isn't every contract I've ever done, but,
On the Teamsters contracts, I mean, and I don't know, I don't care, all I know is.
I know,
what it's
yeah,
done.
yeah, gotcha, okay, very good. Okay. Bargaining unit work. Is there an issue here?
Yeah, our proposal is in G, if you look on page 7 of our September 16th proposal.
So it should be,
11, yeah, okay, got it, yeah, okay.
Well, does yours say September 16 on it, is that correct?
Yeah,
September
yeah.
16.
Oh, I think
I don't know why that would be wrong.
this is the one we just
Oh,
got in the
no.
email. Yeah, I don't know if we have that one. This is the one.
It's the same language.
just 11, that's okay.
What we're looking at.
Yeah,
That's
it's just the September 16th, I gave you guys one that had the revised article on it, so I'm working from that document to have it. Let's give you some,
Oh, wait. I got this one, okay, good,
look
I
on
have
page
one.
7 of that.
All right, page 7? Okay.
The problem that we have with this language is that the phrase "to reduce or avoid overtime." So if there's an employee who's working out in the field and there's a need to work overtime, which represents extra income obviously for the member, and he wants to continue working, the current language allows the supervisor to come up to the work and say, "Go home, I'm taking over."
Yeah.
And so, but there's another 2 hours of work with you, that's okay, just go home. I don't want to pay you overtime, I want to do the work. And, you know, we have a bargaining unit, a defined bargaining unit for a reason. And to basically, just because we hit the overtime threshold, potentially send people home just to avoid paying them overtime is just patently unfair as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it happens too often, but we spent a lot of time on this article in previous years of bargaining, and really, to reduce or avoid overtime, allowing non-bargaining employees to perform bargaining unit work, it's just unfair, it's not right. So, really, I mean, striking that whole sentence is desirable, but to reduce or avoid overtime is really the crux of our concern.
Yeah, and obviously for us, I mean, you know, from a county standpoint, we never know what's gonna happen day to day. I mean, so you're right, I mean, if a water line breaks and we have to send a crew out on a Thursday night, and, you know, they're working all kinds of hours, and we say, hey, go home a few hours early on Friday, they may still get some overtime, but yeah, absolutely, I mean, we're not gonna, you know, hide the ball, it's absolutely to reduce overtime, because we have to. We don't have the funds to pay for everything unforeseen, because we have a budget that's set once a year.
Well, emergency
So-
situations is in here, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're describing something that we even acknowledge, you know.
Right.
We don't necessarily agree with the concept of, you've worked 4 hours overtime during the course of the week, so take 4 hours off early on Friday afternoon. We
Right.
disagree with that wholeheartedly.
Okay.
However, in an emergency situation, to relieve people, because there is a water line, but you have all the right in the world to do that now, we're
Right.
recognizing that, right?
Okay.
We're just talking about non-emergency situations.
It's kind of disheartening for a $10 an hour employee to have a supervisor who's making $18 an hour come up to him and say, go home, I'm gonna work now.
Yeah,
Doesn't make fiscal sense. you know.
right, yeah.
I
Unless
mean,
you're
I guess,
exempt.
well, I guess in some ways it does, because if you're paying him salary.
Right, I was just gonna say exempt, yep, exactly,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So,
Okay, well,
That's what the-
that's, like I said, it's important, from my standpoint, I just wanna know what the,
sure,
what this is about,
sure.
so.
Yeah, I think
okay.
this is a useful
Yeah, very
um,
good.
exercise.
Okay.
Next one, I think, is 16 union stewards,
Okay.
which you can find on page 9.
Yeah, and we did have some, I think, you know, some ideas on this one, because, okay, so the language in the first thing about the alternate stewards, do you wanna just explain that one, the union may or something?
Well, I think you guys already kind of.
Wait, yeah,
Okay,
we
I was gonna
agreed
say we're fine
yeah,
with
we
it,
agreed
okay.
with that. What's new would be in the bold.
Okay, so then, right now, you guys, unlike fire and some other, you know, bargaining units, I don't know how they do it in Orlando, but it doesn't appear that you're using a union time pool for any of this. And I think that what we'd like to see is perhaps if we took one vacation hour, per se, a year of every bargaining unit employee, even if it was 1 or 2, and we understand that they could opt out if they wanted to, but that would actually not only give you I think it would solve your problem in terms of the union leave time.
It would be good, but we had it all last year and it was never set up.
It never got set up.
Okay, well, if we not only set it up for you, but we went ahead on January 1st and automatically deducted 1 leave hour per bargaining unit, and then they, by law, they would be able to opt out, so we would require a form, but we could certainly set it up for you, and that would give you like, you know, I mean, 1,000 hours almost, so that, and that probably not only would cover your, like even at the table, it would, you could utilize it for, you know, all the different things that you guys have.
We don't have a single employer, once again. I know
Yeah.
you come from a fire background, I think you do, as far as bargaining. right?
No, wall to
Okay.
wall, everywhere.
Okay, well, Teamsters, we don't do union leave pools. That's just, IAFF, that's the way they do it.
Yeah,
They also have the president of the local union as a rank and file employee too, so they're a universe away
Yeah.
from us in terms of
yeah,
structure and everything else. I'm not saying ours is better and theirs is worse, but we are the way we are because we want to be. So with that being said, having a pool of taking workers' hours, earned time to put into a pool to defend a contract that's being violated by the employer doesn't make sense to us.
Okay.
The way we do it, every other employer, every single other employer I deal with and Local 79 deals with doesn't have an issue with reasonable amounts of time being spent during grievance hearings. Arbitration hearings are a whole different deal, that's on the
Right.
union side.
yeah.
But the simply disciplinary hearings and grievance hearings, that's not an issue. We just take, you know, whatever time is needed to work out the grievance, it's just paid for time. You don't have to clock out, you don't have to clock in. In Hernando, we do have a pool, but it's not a pool that's contributed to by employees. It's a set amount of hours set aside and budgeted, I guess, by the county.
Okay,
So $300 or whatever the number is, I really don't remember.
okay.
And we've never depleted it, so that's a
Okay,
good
yeah, I
sign,
mean,
too.
okay, so, well, maybe we would consider something like that, I mean, we could look at that.
Yeah, because that way you could say, well, at least we know there's a set limit.
Right.
The union's not
Yeah.
gonna run wild, and we're not gonna
Yeah.
run wild, we just,
Okay.
it's just,
And I think in your original proposal, it said meetings and hearings, I mean, hearings I'm okay with, meetings, you know how that can go, right? I mean, they can get everywhere, so,
yeah, I mean, I think disciplinary, on our proposal just says,
often meetings
to engage in representative activities, meeting with management, for disciplinary action, pre-determination hearing. I mean, it's all, and keep in mind, not every single disciplinary meeting or
Yeah.
hearing is going to have a steward present.
right.
Not
I mean,
all.
and the last place I was, just for your, it was Bradenton, and we had the, ASME was the network, the last couple, I think, over with FOP down in South Florida, wall to wall, actually, we were probably the only bargaining unit in the state where FOP actually had all the employees. Yeah, so, and I don't remember exactly, I think we had something similar, in Bradenton, and we did limit it, you know, we were able to work with them and make sure they weren't, because we did have a problem with, you know, every single time there was a meeting, something, they wanted to bring 3 people in, and it was like.
Yeah,
okay,
that's not our style. I
Okay,
mean,
alright.
I don't, again, I don't wanna knock our fellow unions, but
Right.
some of them do things they probably shouldn't be doing. I'd like to think that we're considerably more professional, we take this business very serious.
Some of them pay their stewards.
What's that?
Some of the unions pay their students for the time.
Right, and they also don't have business representatives in the same state. So, you know, I mean, so that might be something you need to do. We don't need to do that, but, so our proposal is nothing abnormal.
Okay,
If setting up a pool that the county just sets aside X amount of hours, and maybe take it for a test drive.
okay,
And if the pool is depleted in 3 months, and you're gonna know we're abusing it, you know,
Okay.
and, it's not gonna be the case, I just know it is, you know.
okay, yeah, that's a, definitely, we'll definitely discuss that, it sounds like it might be workable.
All right, cool. All right, next one,
It goes into the union leave account? Is that
yeah,
it?
they kind of are hand in
Hand in
hand,
hand,
you know.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and that, well, this is where we were saying, hey, if you want to do the first full pay, and you can think about that too, if you go to Congress, you know, maybe think about if that might work for you guys, because we're thinking, I don't know what, at the bargaining table, what is happening, it's unpaid, and, I mean, this would be another opportunity, and that's what we were thinking.
Yeah,
Because
this-
you are bargaining on behalf of all the employees, so, you know,
Right.
having a little skin in the game, 1 hour, I mean, literally 1 hour is 20,000 hours, so that's what my thought was, I have seen it other places, and I wanna say that's what I did.
Currently, these guys are on union time here for
Oh,
bargaining,
okay.
okay? So it might be, first of all, they're on union
Leave
time
without
for everything.
Leave without pay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to see leave without pay struck, some other kind of thing, because I go back to work tomorrow and there's an emergency where I have to stay, I lose all my overtime because I'm sitting here.
Right. Well, and I agree with you, so, and that's what I'm suggesting, the union leave pool, that is a good example of, I mean, you guys are bargaining on behalf of all of the employees, so that's why I'm thinking if they gave you, I mean, literally 1 hour, and quite frankly, there's a lot of people that are trying to, especially your longer tenured employees, I mean, they're not using all the vacation hours, I mean, some of them are even losing them, so, or donating them, or whatever. I have to read the policies here, I'm sorry, not sure what happens, but, so maybe 1 hour, and like I said, if we set it up for you, so that it's, you know, and that's, again, maybe the union leave account, but, you know, I don't necessarily disagree with.
To tell you the truth, I mean, our normal, you know, I guess method of business is to pay bargaining team members out of lost wages. That's what we typically do, but the steward activity
Okay.
is on the clock. That's the way it normally is. Now, if you want to reverse that and say that, but, you know, just the idea of making the other members pay for these members to be here, that's what we're not so keen on.
Okay, well, we'll, again, like I said, we'll kind of chat about it, maybe the county pool could be for this too. I mean, you know, like I said, I don't wanna promise anything obviously, but I just wanna explore the options.
Sure.
Okay.
So 17 and 16 are kind of companion
Yep, exactly.
proposals.
Okay.
Trying to each other.
Okay, probationary employees, was this the one about just the extension of the time for the 90 days? Okay, I mean, I will tell you, that is a benefit for the employee more than the employer, so I would hope that you would definitely go for that, because, I mean, I'm gonna tell you what I tell a department head when they come to me and they say, and I can't even tell you how many times this happens, right? They come to me and they say, hey, we got a borderline employee, he's been here 6 months, he's missed a couple days, blah, 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 whatever. I'm debating about extending his probation. My answer is generally, well, you should terminate the employee unless you can extend the probation, because you have just seen the best 6 months of that employee, and that's the truth. So if we have the 90 days, that's your time to, you know, tell the employee, hey, you know, you gotta get serious or you're out of a job. You know,
Our
add
thoughts
something
are,
like-
our thoughts are that conversation should happen at the 3-month mark. Okay, out of a 6-month employee, if the employee is demonstrating some kind of behavior around 3 months, that leads to question, I mean, we have 30-day probationary period in a lot of places, you know, and I understand that's excessively short. However, I've said it once, I've said it 100 times, you have a disciplinary procedure to correct the bad apples.
Right,
6 months is a long period of time, 180 days, that you can kind of evaluate somebody. I understand if someone is out of a chunk of time, but that gets added, I think we had that discussion.
okay.
We're not necessarily opposed to that, I think we talked about it anyway. And so, you know, if someone missed a month out of the first 6 months, well, then you tack it on to the end of it, that just seems reasonable. But why is it that if someone has demonstrated this sort of conduct and hasn't been corrected midstream, or me within 3 months out of the 6 months and say, you know what, you're doing good. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're not gonna have a problem. If something changes in the next 3 months,
Yeah.
you're not gonna pass your probation. So I don't necessarily buy the argument that it's good for the employee. I think it's better for the employee that you're upfront and honest with them at the time the conduct has become questionable, rather than waiting until the 6-month mark and saying, oh, by the way, you're not good enough, we're gonna string you along a little bit longer. And you know, there's pros and cons to both.
Mhm. Yeah,
This is not a do or die proposal, we have others that are a lot stronger,
okay.
but, you know, just taking into consideration the comments, you know, and I think that you could probably, you know, get a good assessment of the employee within 3 months, let alone 6 months, and then you certainly don't need 9 months, but again, if that's something you have.
I think it might be a little column A, little column B, because there are certainly jobs that you should be able to analyze employees' performance in 90 days, but there are other ones, I think we talked last time, like 911, that is a little bit different scenario. And you know, they start their first 3 to 4 months in a training capacity, really a lot of classroom training, so you don't get to evaluate the operation of that person and how they are handling this critical job. And sometimes we get to the point where we would like to have a little extra time and we can't, because the probationary period is up, and you have to make a decision at that point. And sometimes you wish you had another month with the person, and you're not, and you can't.
I understand that, and you know, I'm no stranger to having certain classifications. I do represent some firefighters, and they are 1 year, you got 1 year to evaluate, because your life is on the line, I guess. And that's just works for them. The firefighters are fine with that, management likes that, so everything's fine. I understand certain categories, or classifications rather, you know, so maybe we can identify those. You know, and if it is just limited to 911, but, I mean, if the guy's going out there and basically he's just a regular maintenance worker, and his tool is a shovel, I mean, I don't understand why, you know, it takes so long.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you that the majority of the issues are absenteeism. I mean, what starts to happen is for 3 months, you got it together. And then in month 4, you start missing work, and 5, you're missing work. And that's usually, unfortunately, I mean, I would say the majority of the cases that I've seen is they started missing work. And so then it's a matter of what do I do? Because I don't really know. I mean, 3 months they were great, maybe they missed 1 day. All of a sudden, months 4, 5, and 6, they're starting to maybe create a little pattern, and I'm just not sure about it. And that's all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Cut them loose because, you know, how many days do you miss? Or maybe you genuinely have an issue going on. I mean, and that happens, you know, let's face it.
And right there, you know, they may have an issue going on. So
Right.
if you have the right to discipline an employee from day 1 to the last day.
Right, no, I understand that, but you,
So
I mean.
if they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, if they're abusing the leave policies, then discipline them for that. But if someone has a legitimate excuse, but you just don't want to hear it, not you personally, but the county doesn't want to hear it, they're still an at-will employee, can just be cut at any time, rather than being able for us to say, hey, why don't we look at the circumstances here through the grievance procedure. That won't be allowed if the person's just at a will for that
Right,
time.
right.
But anyway, enough said.
Okay.
We'll-
All right, well,
John, just a
definitely-
question about your side of the table, how this operates. Do you collect dues from probationary employees?
We can.
With this, is part of your concern that this would delay the ability to collect dues?
It's not, no, because we have some Teamsters that transfer down here and they sign up on day 1. And so it's not like, come on, need the money. It's not like that. But at the same time, it is true, we can't necessarily go to bat for them. But, you know, I would question if somebody is such a basket case, that they're on the brink of getting terminated and you're extending their probation because they didn't make it, and they want to become a member all of a sudden, you know, we have to question why do they want to be a member so bad? Are they looking
Yeah.
for this,
All right.
you know?
It's just, this is an odd debate because seemingly we're stepping into the batter spots for the probationary employees, and you're throwing, you know, the brush back
I've
pitch.
had
and
this
it's
argument.
usually the other way around.
I know, I've had this debate with I don't know too many unions, and I know it's not this one, that is in favor of automatic extensions of probation. I just don't know. Maybe you know some unions that are, ours is not. We want to make that probation period short so we can go to bat for them with the just cause provision. And the longer you extend that probation, our stock response is you're not doing the employee a favor, because if they're not good enough, just cut them loose. Do them a favor, just cut them loose. You know,
Alright.
but again, we're willing to look at anything.
Yeah,
This
well,
is-
maybe, I mean, you know, we have 90 days, we want to be able to, you know, like, I mean, we'll talk about that. That's good. It's good to hear your, like I said, your thoughts on it.
I just want to clarify though, this is not a mutual agreement of extension, right? This is just
Correct.
the HR director is telling the union we're extending.
Correct, yes. Have you seen any written mutual? I don't think I've ever seen that, but it's.
Well, we've had some that, yeah.
Yeah, I've got some that require, it's a tri-party agreement essentially, the employee, the union,
Kind of like a last
and the
chance.
public employer sign off on the extension.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the other thing is that if we don't have that, we've had some that were, in lieu of letting them go, there's going to be a meeting at least. And just to clearly outline what needs to improve in a set period of time, so there's, you know, and I really don't recall enough about your proposal. I guess you have an improvement plan, so, you know, that's at least a benefit where you can't just tell somebody, I don't know, go another 30 days, you know, at least you have an improvement plan in place. So your proposal is fair in that respect. 19 is contract negotiations.
Mhm.
Why are we so, I think we wanted to have, yeah, and this is just part of the package, for employees to receive pay for attending negotiations. In Hernando County, a neighboring county, we have a limit, I think it's 6, or it might be 4. I think we have 6 people that can be on the committee, but only 4 are being paid, the union picks up the other 2.
Okay.
But this kind of mixes in with the other 2 as well, stewards. and,
Yeah, we'll talk about that, we'll discuss that.
And meaningful, so
Okay, great.
maybe the 3 of them can kind of work something out.
Okay, very good.
So anyone wants to know, let's talk about seniority.
Yeah, well, okay, first, yeah, let's,
Yeah.
yeah, I know,
All the
well,
niceness is gone.
now you're gonna see the real me, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so,
We better order dinner now.
yeah, right, okay. Well, let me first just give you, my initial thought when seeing the article. First of all, a lot of what's in the article that you proposed are in other articles. So for instance, you've taken the layoff article and you put it in here. You've taken the promotion article and you put it in here. I mean, the first thing that I would say is, let's break them down where they are. The layoff article exists. Most of the language that you're proposing is, well, now it's adverse to the layoff article, or it's different, I'll say. So the first thing is, can we re-split them up and talk about them where they are currently in the contract? And then having said that, I'll give you my initial thoughts on your proposal. As you're aware, I don't think I have to tell you, employers hate doing everything by seniority. Okay,
That's not what our proposal is.
Oh, I know, but just to throw that
I would think
out
it'd be
there.
more accurate to say employers, at least this one,
Yeah.
doesn't like doing anything by seniority.
Well, okay, so I think maybe,
Not you,
we can
but,
talk about that, yeah. Job selection, shift selection, overtime, I'm not, explain that to me. 'cause
All right, I'll kind of explain it in a
Yeah,
nutshell.
'cause I'd like to.
This language that's proposed here is identical to the language that is in the Hernando County contract. There's slight tweaks here and there, there's nothing,
Right.
substantive. It is also, at least section 3, job assignments, shift selection, and overtime, has been proposed in Citrus County BOCC, and they have agreed to it. We're still, I was just with them yesterday, but they have signed off, TA'd, this seniority language affecting them. And to be quite honest, of the employers who haven't had seniority language historically in the contract, they've been honoring it anyway. So it wasn't that big of a deal for them I had to kind of explain what I wanted to do, that seniority is not a one-size-fit-all application in the county, because there's so many diverse types of work groups, so many different, types of jobs,
Right.
classifications, departments, divisions, and so on, that the reason why this proposal, in our opinion, is great is because it gives us the opportunity to tweak things by a departmental basis. And so it's been successful in Hernando because of that concept. And Citrus County has embraced it too, understanding that, as an example, seniority for overtime assignments may work in some places, other places it doesn't work, and/or they don't want it.
Right.
a rotating wheel works better for them.
Right,
That's
yeah,
what
it
they've
was
always done.
that's what I was trying to do, is like, come up with some scenarios. Does that mean the most senior person always gets the offer of overtime first, or is it always a list where it starts with the senior person, works all the way down the list, and then, you know, I'm not 100% sure what you would propose.
That's the beauty of our proposals, that we can work those things out by department, okay? So, even amongst this committee here, there's differences in how seniority affects them and how they want it to affect them. And so again, this is not a one-size-fit-all cookie cutter, everything's seniority top down, live with it, that's the way it is, that's not our proposal.
So your proposal is to essentially, okay, so Parks Department, I'm gonna take them for a pick on them, right? Is anybody here from Parks?
I was.
Former, yeah.
As a
That's why he's
supervisor,
here.
a
That's why you're here.
supervisor in Parks for 23 years.
Okay, well, good, so you can tell me if I'm on base. So I'm just throwing this out, okay? So we have lots of parks throughout the county, and if it works, and I have no idea how it works, so, but if it works, so that you have a crew that's at Cruise Lake, and you have a crew that's at Starkey Park, or something like that, you have crews designated in the county. So we're getting ready for this Monday, right? The Cruise Lake crew, they don't have the most seniority, because we always throw the new guys over at Cruise Lake. Now, what are we gonna do if we need overtime to
I'll
prepare
answer
for
that
Cruise
question.
Lake?
That is a fine, shining example of, in the Parks Department, that we would localize seniority by their assignments.
Okay.
Okay, as an example, for overtime or job selection, what's desirable, what's less desirable, within, I call it portable seniority or worksite seniority, for those purposes. So if you need someone to stay over, who's, and what do you have in parks? You have equipment operators or EOs?
Mostly park attendant ones and twos.
Okay, park attendants, ones and twos, and you need some overtime for park attendants, ones, okay?
yeah.
Well, you wouldn't have to pull the entire park
Okay, it
department,
would
you just
just
stay
be
within that
localized,
little
okay.
unit.
Alright.
It's just common sense stuff, and that's, I'll take Citrus County as an example, because there's stuff I'm talking about, they have 5 maintenance yards. We have 5, we have 5 different,
It's Hernando calling.
Yeah.
There's an issue.
Calling me.
it's not about about extending a probationary period.
Yeah, there you go. They probably do that there, right? Yes.
So, you know, those 5 maintenance branches all have their own, you know, and we haven't worked it out yet, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it, where
Okay.
it's not all centrally located. Now, you have a bus operator barn, right now, they do things by seniority anyway.
Right, oh, I
Lots
would
of
guess that a lot of the departments probably do.
But what they don't do there, at least from what I understand, with any kind of consistency, if there's a position open on the east side versus the west side,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they may not have transfer rights where you have to, you know, or maybe they do, I don't know, but, you know, that's something that we could look at, and
Okay.
we work out with transit. I get
Alright.
the steward for each department, we sit down and say, hey, number 1, what have you been doing all along, and number 2, how's it been going, is it working fair, is it not fair?
Right.
And then so,
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
That's all
interrupt you. Okay, so of course, our concern from, we see and that's why I say kind of like, if we actually created an article that said job assignment, shift selection, and I know you've seen this in contracts where, for us, a blanket statement about seniority doesn't work. Just because to us, it's like, oh, it could be anything. What you're describing makes sense and could work, but we can't agree to something that is so broad, when in reality, if it's, okay, the east side, west side, that might make sense, but I'm not gonna sit here and make the decision for the operations manager, who may turn around and tell me, no, Barbara, that can't work because, and he has X, Y, Z reason why it can't work.
Yeah.
So there, in all fairness, I don't think that we should sit here and say no, because I think there's a lot of discussion that can be had. But I will tell you that it's gonna definitely require me going out and us going out and talking to the different division directors and saying, what is workable for you? Because those senior managers have to buy off on anything.
I understand that, but one thing, so what our proposal has, in the event of a complete failure to have
Yeah.
a meeting of the minds in a
Right.
departmental sense, that we have to have something of a backdrop for seniority.
Okay.
And what the proposal is that, okay, if we can't either figure something out voluntarily, where both parties will have a meeting of minds,
Right,
or
okay,
we just don't get to it, then departmental seniority would kind of be the backdrop
Okay.
until we can get something more specific.
yeah, and I have an idea on that, so I'm gonna talk to my team over here about some maybe ideas
Sure.
that
And
we
then
have. And
to
then,
continue on, so then, that would, you know, and you gotta understand, I mean, most of the, I would hope you understand, most of the complaints are usually not from the upper levels of management. They filter
Yeah.
down to direct supervisors and the worker bees. That's usually where the friction
Right.
is, okay? And then, so when you go to a department manager and say, okay, well, the union wants us, to sit down with you and work out, you know, some sort of seniority rights, and say, okay, well, fine, let me get my supervisor's input. What do you think they're gonna say? I don't wanna change a damn thing. Everything just
Yeah.
works just the way I want it. Why would I wanna change anything? So we gotta have some sort of safety valve,
Right,
you know? And I'm hoping, like I said, it's, you know, I painstakingly pitched this for years.
Yeah.
You know, and I've gone out and been able to work this proposal, it's a novel idea, no one ever taught me how to do this, I kind of came up with it on my own. And I thought that this was a cool way to go through the departments, and I've provided examples of some of the agreements we've reached with, you know, solid waste in Hernando, with, you know, the utilities department and so on.
Yep.
And so it's not just fluff, it's not a
Right.
pie in the sky proposal, it works.
I don't think anybody's opposed to those type of items. I would definitely wanna know where the perceived problems are right now, and quite frankly, where it's not a problem. Because there's gotta be departments that absolutely use seniority lists as overtime and,
Works great.
Right,
Works
okay.
great for us.
right, and so I just don't understand enough about the whole organization
Sure.
yet
No, I
to
understand.
know where
It's
the
a lot to
problems are and where
absorb
not.
and-
Yeah, and so I, like I said, I don't think it's a no, I just wanna understand better, and then, and like I said, it's important to have this conversation, so.
It is a culture change, I will say, or it's a proposed culture
In
change.
some organizations that, yeah, and some not, right?
Yeah,
Departments.
but the culture here is not satisfactory, it hasn't been, I mean, the same complaints keep coming up over and over and over again. And from a managerial standpoint, I don't understand, why there would be such a philosophical difference of regarding seniority, as a means for gaining something, when you got 3 or 4 people that are comparable in what they do, they all drive a piece of equipment.
Right.
What do you care? The job's gonna get done, one or the other. It means the world to the workers.
Fair enough.
You know,
The open bargaining unit positions, again, that's promotions. So most of the language, quite frankly, we don't have a problem with. You know, I mean, I don't think it's necessary, we don't create the policy of the board, obviously, but, you know, that it is our, sort of policy. You know, we obviously think that encouraging promotions is absolutely the best practice, I mean, we encourage that, that doesn't really, you know, the statement about the race, color, religion, that's law, I don't feel it's necessary to be here. Clearly, you don't have a problem with it, but, you know, again, moving it to the promotion article, because we address a lot of this stuff in the promotion article.
to tell you the truth, that was, again, this was from Hernando.
Yeah.
That was the county's, that was the county's,
Yeah.
proposal to put that in
Okay.
there. I was like, I don't have a problem with
That assumes that you could resolve a claim of discrimination through the collective bargaining,
Yeah, and you
discipline,
can't.
or grievance process, and you can't, and
Yeah.
shouldn't.
Right,
Right.
exactly, I agree.
To tell you the truth, I don't have any problem striking that, because I agree, you know, now we're all of a sudden involved in a racial dispute potentially.
Yeah, you don't.
And then I say, you know what, go call the EEOC, and they say, oh, no, go look at it. So, you know, I left that in there because I wanted to say that this is the exact same thing that works somewhere else, but you want to strike that out, I'm all
Yeah,
for it.
okay. And obviously, we'll want to, you know, in the event there are no qualified bargaining unit positions, that's a, you know, by whose standard, and that's going to be the issue, right? I mean, because we're gonna say there wasn't one, and you're gonna say there was one. So that language will need to be tweaked. The rest of it, I mean, again, you have like, and I'm sorry, I'm not being real clear about where I am.
Well, I know what you're saying, though, I mean, but in light of the fact that people get promotions, because of who they know rather than what they know,
Right.
this language is to protect those employees, so yeah, I mean, we may get a dispute, and we may have a dispute that, I have to tell our member who filed a grievance, like, look, Carl, look at employee A's resume and look at yours. I'm sorry.
Right,
They didn't violate the contract.
right.
And I have those discussions all the time, it doesn't bother me, but it's just, it's those
Well-
times that it's the other way around.
Yeah, and you just had a disaster one in Hernando, I'm aware of. So, I don't know absolutely where that exactly resolved, but I heard all about it for
Well, it
weeks.
resolved in the aggrieved employee getting a pretty substantial sum of money,
Yeah.
to his.
What happened to
benefit.
the other employee?
He's still in the position.
Okay. It was
Why, I don't know, but that's what they said.
Well, I know, because I kept getting called on it, I'm like.
Yeah, well, it's just in that case, and not that I wanna get to the
Yeah, no, I
nitty-gritty
know.
details, but I think everyone should hear it. Just in a nutshell, an employee, filed a grievance because he wasn't the most qualified employee for the opening. And the person who got the position, we have reason to believe he was basically given the position to get him out of the environment he was in because he was failing miserably. So why they would promote someone who's failing miserably is beyond me, but they chose to do so. We filed a grievance, the grievance was processed, we went to arbitration, we won the arbitration. The county says they want to vacate the arbitrator's award, and we went to court. Went to court, and the hometown judge was on the third floor, when the HR department was on the second floor, hometown does, and says, well, you know, the county's got some point. It's like, okay, see you in the appeals court. Prior to going to the appeals, we worked out through mediation that the employee who was aggrieved would receive the same amount of pay as if he'd been promoted, plus his back pay award for the time that he wasn't promoted, and everybody went away happy. So,
Yeah,
and that was an extreme case. I've never
it
had
was,
one
no,
like
no
that.
doubt, and I obviously am very familiar with both employees, and so I didn't mean to squirrel, you know.
Right.
But, okay, but again, the promotion article, the training article is interesting because I don't, again, I